and welcome to this video where we are talking about why you need to stop telling yourself the lie that you don't have time to learn to study. Now, this is something that I hear students saying all the time, like, I'm too busy studying, I haven't got time to learn to study, or from parents, I'm too frazzled to support my child to learn to study. And I want to talk today about this and how important it is that for most students they get over this kind of mindset block so that they can study effectively for their exams and reach their own academic potential and get there with a lot less stress. So my name is Lucy Parsons. I'm an academic coach and founder of Life More Extraordinary Academic Coaching. And I can remember when I had to learn to study and how important it was to actually learn those study skills. So I no longer sat there going, but I don't know how to revise, and actually did some productive revision that got me results. And that's what I want for every young person that we work with, and all young people, in fact, that I want them to have that confidence in their study skills so that they can just get on with the job and get the results that they deserve. So, does your teen need to learn to study? Well, there are some students who do already know how to study, but they are in the minority. So, how do you know if your child really does need to learn to study? Well, here are some telltale signs. Firstly, they probably need to learn to study if they don't have a plan for how they'll spend their study time. Now, I'm not specifically talking about a revision plan there. I'm talking more generally about how they actually approach all their study time, all their homework time, their out of school time, so that they know how they're actually going to get their work done. The next thing that's a sign that your child needs to learn to study is that they're always putting things off for another day. Now, this is a classic sign of procrastination, and when students are procrastinating, it generally means that they're uncomfortable or they're unsure about something. Procrastination is a symptom of resistance, and resistance comes from a place of discomfort. So if your child is always putting things off for another day, it probably means that they're not very confident about how to study or how to do the tasks that they're being set. And they need support with that, basically. Okay, the third sign that your child needs to learn to study is that they try to revise, but you can't see them actively engaging with their work. They're just sitting there staring at it. So this I paint a word picture sometimes of a student lying on their bed with their phone next to them. They haven't turned the notifications off. They're maybe just staring at a textbook. They may be wafting a highlighter around, but they're actually not doing any proper work that is going to really help them move forward and get better marks. So if that kind of word picture rings a bell with you, that is a sure sign that your child has some work to do in terms of learning how to study, so that the time they do spend studying really pays off. Now, a fourth sign that your child needs to learn to study is that their confidence is easily knocked. So if your child is often, if they don't get the result that they want, or they, get a piece of feedback and it completely knocks them off course and stops them from trying, then this is a sure sign as well that they need some help with their mindset around studying, which is part of learning study skills. And then the final and fifth thing that might be a telltale sign that your child needs to learn to study is that they're not getting the optimum grades that you and they know that they're capable of. And that's a real pain point that I hear lots of people talking about, that their child works really hard or you just know in your heart that they have this talent and this ability, but they're just not getting the grades. So those are the signs that your child might need to learn to study. But learning to study takes some time investment up front. But as you go through the process of learning to study, step by step by step, you will find that you start saving time. And this is the best thing about it. So, for example, if you get a decent filing system in place, so you get your organisation sorted out and you actually use it, you'll spend less time looking for lost work. So recently in the Extraordinaries Club, we had a young person who'd made revision notes in year 10, but had then lost them and had to remake them in year 11, which is just a waste of time. And there are probably actually better revision activities that she could have been doing. But, you know, if you've got that good filing system in place and you file everything away as you go along, you have your revision notes, you have your class notes so that you've got something to revise from, you've got everything organised and everything ready when you need it, and you don't waste that precious time looking for things when you actually need them. So another way that you can save time by learning to study is by actually understanding how learning works. Now, I painted that word picture just now of that young person lying on their bed, staring at a textbook, being distracted by their phone. That is not how learning works. And when young people actually really understand how learning works, they can do much more effective revision that gets better marks and actually spend less time on it. Because if you're doing those high-level revision tasks that really make a difference, you actually have to do less of them and you still get really, really good marks. So that's a really good way that learning to study can save a young person time. Now, another way that you can save time by learning to study is knowing how to study gives you confidence, so you spend less time stressing and worrying and more time either being productive with your revision or resting, having fun, or doing the things that you love. So it makes me so sad when I see young people stressing and worrying and, just keeping themselves stuck because they're just not confident with their revision. And it would so much better if they just get on with the task because they know how to do it, and then they can have some proper downtime and relaxation time. And so many parents these days worry about their children's mental health, and I'm a strong believer that if we don't give our children these tools to be able to do the things that us as parents and their teachers are asking them to do, i.e. revising, studying for their exams, we're actually contributing to poor mental health because we are putting pressure on them to do something without actually giving them the skills to do it well and doing it properly. So I wholeheartedly believe in giving our young people the confidence to do the jobs that they need to do really, really effectively. And then another way you can save time by learning to study is by not having to do retakes. So if you fail English or Maths GCSE, then you have to do retakes. You have to keep retaking until you're 18. And for a lot of young people who find themselves in this situation, it is hugely demoralising and difficult. And we just don't want that to happen to young people. We want them to have the study skills and know-how in place so that they can pass first time and they don't have to do that demoralising retake process. So my message for you today really is if you can spare an hour a week for 10 weeks or just 10 hours, you can learn to study, because that's how long it takes when you run through the study skills course in the Extraordinaries Club. And that actually is a really small investment of time when you look at how much time you can save, but also how much stress and heartache you can save, because you know that you are working effectively and you have that confidence in the process that you're going through. So the other thing I want to share with you today is this quote that I always share with the young people that I work with in the Extraordinaries Club. And the quote goes like this: "Time is our most valuable non-renewable resource. And if we want to treat it with respect, we need to set priorities." Okay, so time is our most valuable non-renewable resource. Basically, that means that once time is gone, it's gone. That's it, gone forever. And that's why it's so important that how we choose to use our time is a wise choice. We need to choose wisely how to use our time. And it's also about this kind of setting of priorities. So you can see a person's priorities by what they are choosing to do with their time. So if academic achievement and getting the grades is a priority for you and for your child, you can demonstrate this to yourself and to the world by investing the time to learn how to study. Now, I did something similar to this for myself last year. I joined an online program that was all about effective money management because I'd never really had much financial education and I wanted to get better at managing my own money. And just by joining that program, I was sending a signal to myself that this was important to me. It was something that I really wanted to follow through on. So just by putting your hand up and saying, this is something that is important to me and you want to spend your time on it, then that is something that, you know, you're signaling to yourself that it's something that is really, really important. So basically, if you can't find the time to do something, you're saying it's not important to you. And, you know, if you're saying that to yourself or your child's saying that, you know, you need to think carefully about what that means right now, but also for the longer term. Okay, so a valid question when you're thinking about whether you can actually spend the time to learn to study is whether you should be studying instead rather than learning to study. So really, what I would say to this is unless you're already getting the grades that you want, you've got a plan, you're highly resilient, and you're using revision and study techniques routinely to improve your marks, then there are ways in which you can study better. And really, it's my passion that all young people are revising in the most effective way possible so that they get that sense of confidence and, you know, that sense of well-being that comes from achievement, but they also get the time off that they deserve. And it's just so important, really. So I want to tell you about a client who worked with us last year, he was in year 11, and he was dyslexic, and he'd been working with another study skills coach who had told him to make reams and reams and reams of notes. And he was basically making himself miserable by following through on this advice. But at the same time, he could see it wasn't helping his grades. So he felt like he was really stuck, he was stressed, he was burnt out, he was miserable. When he came to work with us in the Extraordinaries Club, he didn't really, on the face of it, have time to learn to study because he was spending all this time on making notes, but it was a revision technique that wasn't working for him. So they joined the club, and he and his mum worked through the materials in the club meticulously. That was their word that they used when they emailed me to say how well he got on in his GCSEs. And they worked through the modules in the club on the study skills course, and he became confident, he became happier. His mum stopped stressing, you know, she stopped looking over his shoulder, worrying about him. She could actually sleep easily at night, knowing that he was on the right track again. And when he got his results, I was just so happy to hear that he got 4 grade 9s, 2 grade 8s, and 4 7s in his GCSEs, which, you know, for anybody, those are incredible results. But, the real result for me was that he was no longer feeling burnt out and like it was all useless and fruitless. And, all these notes were just a waste of his time. He actually got to a place where he was confident and happy about how he was studying. So you might say as well, shouldn't school be teaching them to study? Well, yes, they probably should, but in many, many cases they aren't. And if they are, it often doesn't really sink in. So I want to tell you another story about a year 11 who joined the club in the autumn, and his mum recently wrote to me, and just to give you some background before I read out what she said, he was at a grammar school, and she said that they had been teaching study skills kind of over the years that he'd been there, but there was still something missing for him. So what she said when she emailed me was, the Extraordinaries Club has given him a new focus and confidence in his approach to his studies that bore fruit in his November mocks. It really hit home last night at parents' evening just how much difference it has made. He is studying 12 subjects, and every single teacher said the same thing. He has always been a good student, but something has changed this academic year. It is as though he has found another gear. A good number also commented on how he has become a much more independent learner. Thank you for your guidance that has switched on the light bulb in him that we didn't realise existed. So really my question for you, if you're watching this, is do you want your child to find that extra gear and have that light bulb switched on for them so that they can really find what it takes to really reach their potential and have that confidence and really fly? Because it's just such a wonderful thing to see in young people. If your answer to that is yes, say so in the comments below, just type yes. But I'd also love to invite you to sign up for my webinar, which is called How to Reach Your Academic Potential with Less Stress and More Success. And on that webinar, when you watch it with your child, you'll be introduced to the study skills framework that I teach in the Extraordinaries Club. It's basically the modules that you do over the 10 weeks or over the 10 sessions. You don't have to make it take 10 weeks. And, you'll see whether you believe that that is right for you, if that's something that is going to help you and is going to be the right thing to support your child at the stage they're at. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, a like or a heart, and sign up for the webinar. You can find the link for the webinar in the description, or it's at lifemoreextraordinary.com/webinar. So that's lifemoreextraordinary.com/webinar. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and goodbye.